Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. On this 26th day of July 2020, I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, we've got fire danger graphic, and just like yesterday, no areas of high fire danger seen anywhere in the state today, with again, widespread light shower activity across much of interior Alaska. Cool temperatures, cloudy skies, just isn't really conducive to anything producing a high fire danger, let alone extreme. So from there, moving on to the hazardous weather graphic charts, and there are, again, no watches, warnings, or advisories out anywhere for the state for the next day or so. And so we'll just go right into satellite imagery, and you can see low pressure system moved northward off the southeast coast overnight and made landfall there right around Yakutat earlier today, and is now weakening as it moves inland. The frontal boundary dragging eastward, weakening also as it goes, but that brought heavy rains across the panhandle. About the entire stretch of the southeast coast saw heavy amounts of rain, including the eastern North Gulf Coast areas, where Juneau, for example, picked up 1.25 inches in the last 24 hours. But east of Juneau, up in the mountains there, more mountainous terrain, had over 3 inches to 3.5 inches in the same 24-hour period. Otherwise, Yakutat, Sitka picked up about 2 inches of rain, or just under 2 inches of rain from this frontal system. And even Craig and Ketchikan down to the south had about 1.5 inches. So it was a widespread area of fairly moderate to heavy rain. And winds with the front is a low track northward, gusted anywhere from 25 to as high as 45 miles an hour. But that's all diminishing now, and the rain becoming more showery. And even the main frontal boundary there to the south, it's starting to lighten up there as it weakens. Otherwise, back to the west, clearing skies. Let me back that up one more time there, and you can see Cook Inlet cleared out today. Kodiak Island also clearing out in the Seward Peninsula, although some buildups and a few showers are developing over the Seward Peninsula this afternoon, as well as the western Alaska Range, with some isolated thunderstorms occurring over the eastern Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, and as far west as the central interior, and even some isolated thunderstorm lightning strikes were reported there in the central Brooks Range, with mainly showers to the northeast. Farther to the west, low pressure spinning a trough into the western Arctic coast today. That brought about 0.2 inches of precipitation to areas of the coastline there. And more notable were the wind gusts at Cape Lisburne, 53 miles per hour peak wind gust today, and Cape Lisburne, 53 miles an hour not Point Hope, but Point Lay. Had 40 mile an hour wind gusts here currently. Their peak wind gust just last hour was 40 miles an hour. And about 25 miles an hour down toward Kivalina and over toward the central Arctic coastal areas, rain and wind also increasing there. But it looks like some sunshine broke out there, especially on the north shore of the St. Lawrence Island area and the Bering Strait, and also some sun looks like a mostly sunny day over the Kobuk Valley into portions of the Koyukuk Valley and the Yukon Flats area, where Beaver pushed up to 73 degrees today. That was a warm spot in the state. Willow almost matched that with 72 at mid-afternoon, and temperature approaching 70 over the Kenai Peninsula there, as you can see the sunshine. On down to Kodiak Island, Seward was in the upper 60s with northerly winds, with still a few clouds around, and some sunshine there over the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta areas, and even just south of Nunivak Island. But high pressure over the Bering Sea, making for extensive cloudiness, areas of fog, and a very weak frontal boundary brought some light rain, fog, and drizzle, with even lower flying conditions to the central Aleutians back out towards Shemya, but winds really not much of a factor with that at all. And you can see off the southeast coast, clearing increases as you head west there. Still a weak trough yet to move through, so showers will take their time ending there. And we'll see it stays showery, but a lot less wind tonight for the Panhandle, North Gulf Coast. Just about no wind at all, lack of a gradient there. Low clouds and fog forming out over the Gulf of Alaska. Call it mostly cloudy. Kodiak Island, maybe a little more clearing than that. Definitely drying out southern Alaska. Lingering showers, say up around, Windy Pass area, Healy, maybe Denali, and a little more extensive off to the northeast toward Eagle, but generally all decreasing there. But wind and rain, possibly moderate to briefly heavy, coming into the north slope, especially the west side first on the coast. Could see gusts anywhere from 35 to 50 miles an hour. That's going to create as they say, elevated surf. Could be some pretty decent crash bangers coming on shore there tonight and into early Monday as rain and wind increases all along the southeast coast and progresses eastward. And to the south, just a few showers in over the Kotzebue Sound area and Seward Peninsula, but definitely see an increase in the winds, gusts 25 to maybe 30 miles an hour, all the way down to St. Lawrence Island, with low clouds and fog covering again much of the Bering Sea. And that frontal boundary really weakens. This washes out to barely a trough, actually, over the Aleutians, actually north of the west central Aleutians, stuck on Atka for rain and drizzle there, more like drizzle and fog, and cloudy for the Fox Islands on Alaska, Nikolsky, Dutch Harbor, with light winds, and also in the Gulf of Alaska. For tomorrow, that front weakens up to the north there. A lot less wind with it. Very light winds now. Barely a breeze in some areas, and light rain, fog, drizzle, especially over the Bering Strait, light rain and fog up along the frontal boundary itself to the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and isolated thunderstorms possible again over the upper Tanana Valley from the eastern Alaska range on up toward maybe Eagle or to the west a little bit, and showers over the central interior. Sunshine, a little bit warmer south central Alaska tomorrow, and still mostly sunny Kodiak Island and dry. Same thing for Bristol Bay. Showers continue there for the Panhandle, especially over the central and northern areas, with less of a chance down to the south. And basically partly to mostly sunny over the southwest interior. A few isolated showers could pop up over the Kuskokwim Mountains down toward the Auckland and Kilburg mountain areas, but nothing significant. And again, low clouds and fog quite widespread over the Bering Sea and breezy over the northern Bering. Looking at the outlook for Tuesday, that frontal boundary hung up there in the north, associated with that 999 millibar low over the eastern Brooks Range. Precipitation will be a lot more lighter and intermittent with that, but there'll be a general area of continuous light rain or drizzle with lower flying conditions from Kotzebue Sound, northern Seward's Peninsula, specifically mainly Shishmaref, on up toward Arctic Village and Kaktovik Barter Island. Otherwise, low clouds and fog for the Arctic coast, light winds. No change for the Bering Sea. No change for the Aleutians either. Still have that very weak trough and some leftover moisture with that, kicking off some maybe light rain, drizzle, and IFR to possibly low IFR flying conditions. High pressure roughly over the Seward Peninsula or the Alaska Peninsula, coming a little more dominant there and shifting eastward, and the flow around that's going to make for downslope flow off the Alaska Range. So that should be a significantly warmer day with 70 to 75 degree readings for highs over south central Alaska, Manuska, Susitna Valley, Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak Island, sunshine in the afternoon, maybe some low clouds along the coast early on, but it'll be sunny for Prince William Sound, some sun over the northern Panhandle, but still showery, but less showers. Call it mostly cloudy with a few showers around to the central and southern southeast coast, and still kind of showery up there over the Tanana Valley and 40 Mile Country into the northeastern Copper River Basin areas. Looking at lows tonight for the Panhandle, near 50 or into lower 50s there, otherwise upper 40s to lower 50s, most everywhere south of the Arctic coast or the central coast, mid 30s. And then highs tomorrow, lower 40s for the Arctic coast and 65 to 70 through much of the interior, all the way down to Bethel and Bristol Bay into the upper 60s actually, 65 to 71 or 2 for the Susitna Valley, Kenai Peninsula tomorrow, mid-60s Copper River Basin, and upper 50s to lower 60s for the Panhandle. Lows 40s and 50s, with lower 30s now along the Arctic coast. Chillier air in over the western North Slope as well. Followed by highs on Tuesday afternoon. Again, 70s, 75 there, south central Alaska, near 70 Kodiak. And pushing up, trying to get towards 70 in the Tanana Valley again, as well as the upper Yukon Valley, and 60s for the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to the first flying weather graphic for Monday morning. Up north, IFR, just south of Kivalina there on the northwest coast, and then covering much of the western North Slope and just about all the Arctic coast over to around Dead Horse, Prudhoe Bay or so. Then some VFR for Barter Island, Kaktovik, and marginal VFR down to the Brooks Range. VFR from the Kuskokwim Delta and lower Yukon River Valley area up the rivers to the Yukon Flats. And then marginal VFR for the Tanana Valley, the Alaska Range, south of the mountain zone to the east, Cook Inlet VFR into the northwestern Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound marginal, mostly IFR from the Bering Strait, Norton Sound, Yukon Delta coast, as well as the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, and mostly marginal for the southeast coast, Zeppelin Canal, Glacier Bay. And for the afternoon, VFR over towards Stewart and Hyder, otherwise marginal for the central Panhandle, Lincoln Canal, Glacier Bay, still VFR. Some IFR around Icy Bay, but Yakutat and the North Gulf Coast in across Prince William Sound marginal, and that extends in over the eastern Copper River Basin. IFR, though, just off the southeast coast of the Kenai Peninsula, and a patch of IFR also there south of Togiak Bay, otherwise marginal for the Alaska Peninsula. Aleutians, IFR, and as well as the Perbolos right up through the Bering Strait. And southwest flow making downsloping enough for marginal VFR for the central and central North Slope and the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. For Tuesday morning, IFR mostly Kobuk, Koyukuk valleys, northern areas there, Yukon Flats, northward to the Arctic coast, and all of the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, Bristol Bay as well. IFR, a lot more widespread now, Kodiak Island across the Gulf of Alaska and Northeast Pacific to just off the southeast coast, but in toward Yakutat, Prince William Sound IFR. Next extends into the eastern Copper River Basin, but VFR for the upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country, westward into the Kuskokwim Valley, and then some marginal VFR now on the eastern and southern slopes of the Alaska Range. And for the afternoon, good VFR from the Yukon Flats area there, right on down to Cook Inlet into northern Prince William Sound. Marginal VFR lingering roughly from just south of Valdez eastward to Yakutat. Panhandle VFR, mostly Kodiak Island VFR, Bering Sea IFR, and the Aleutians IFR as well, with marginal for the Alaska Peninsula. Marginal VFR into the lower Yukon River Valley area. Passes Anatuvik, marginal VFR becoming IFR. Same forecast for Adigan, both approaches and entrances. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR. Rainy VFR tomorrow. Monday looks to be VFR also for windy. Isabel, VFR. Mentasta, looking good with VFR flying conditions. Tanita as well, VFR. Portage looks like kind of a marginal VFR flying day for that pass. Chilkoot and White, though, optimistically, VFR. Freezing levels on the higher side now, about 8,000 feet through central Alaska, but up to 12,000 feet there, all the way near St. Lawrence Island, on down to the central Aleutians, and then 6,000 to 8,000 feet over the Panhandle. Icing that system, pushing moisture in over the northern part of the state, especially from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast. So areas of considerable moderate rime icing there, maybe some mixed icing in the central interior and the northern Panhandle. Taking a look at the jet stream, polar vortex there northeast of Wrangel Island, so pretty good jet associated with that, dropping down, coming across the Chukchi Sea out of the Russian Far East. Southwesterlies 100 knots across the central North Slope to the eastern Arctic coast, reaching over the western Bering Sea, starting to expand eastward, and that's going to control the weather over southern Alaska. So we're looking warmer and sunnier for about, say, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday across southern Alaska as the Pacific jet stays suppressed to the south a little bit. 9,000 feet, there's pretty strong winds, 50 to 70 knots there, with that low just to the north in the Arctic across the North Slope and western Arctic coast. Lighter winds to the south and 3,000 feet. Pretty strong winds up north there for the North Slope Arctic coast areas. Back to Kotzebue Sound, 40 to 50 knot winds there. And another band, but not quite as strong through the central interior. Otherwise, to the south, pretty light winds, and that system out over the western Aleutians, not really much of a wind producer. Look for occasional moderate chop below 5,000 feet, Kotzebue Sound in the North Slope.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and joining us here today is Eric Stevens from the Geographic Information Network of Alaska at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, GINA for short. And Eric, you frequently come on the show to tell us about these really cool things that we're doing with satellites over Alaska and how we can use these really awesome tools. But I'm thinking all the while there has to be a mad scientist somewhere working on the next cool thing in the satellite laboratory. What is being developed today?
Right. Well, you know, when I was a kid growing up in the boonies in North Dakota there, on Sunday after church, the old people, like my parents and their parents, would gather and have coffee and talk. And I kind of eavesdropped on them a little bit. And the theme of a lot of these conversations seemed to be, well, isn't it amazing what they can do these days, someone would say.
Sure.
And I was thinking, well, I don't know, I was too young.
Right.
Well, now I'm old enough in the weather satellite business
You can
that
remember
with
when.
the new generation of weather satellites, I'm starting to say, isn't it amazing what they can do these days? Because it's always improving.
Yes.
Maybe an analogy here is like television. Television started in black and white, then it went to color. Analog signal transitioned to digital here a number of years ago. Standard definition becomes high definition. Right. Well, weather satellites are changing too. First weather satellites went up around 1960, not that long ago. No. It's comparatively young science. And every time a new series of satellites is launched, see, we learn from the past, so the mad scientists decide, well, we could make the next satellite even better in such and such a respect.
Yes.
And now the United States is on the verge of launching, or in progress of launching, a series of new geostationary satellites that are better than ever before.
Okay.
Let's take a look at some of the previews of what these new satellites can do.
Peek inside the lab here, okay.
Yeah, and so we'll peek in, and here are some mad scientists and
look at
mad
that.
technicians dressed in bunny suits. This is, believe it or not, this is the business end of a weather satellite under construction in a clean room. You don't want a speck of dust on the lens of a weather satellite's camera. So this is done in a clean environment. They are building a geostationary satellite there.
Oh, cool.
This new generation of satellites, if you had to answer the question, why are these better? Why do we care?
Okay.
You could answer it with 3 words: faster, better, more. The new generation of satellites are faster than the older ones. The images are sharper, they're better, and there's more spectral channels. We'll talk about that.
Any one of these called Steve Austin? It sounds faster, better, stronger.
Yeah. You know what though? These things cost more than $6 million.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They're pricey, but they are an essential tool for the Weather Service to fulfill its mission of protecting lives and property.
Exactly.
You got to have the tool to do the job, and it helps all of us when we get the accurate forecast, the warning in time, and this is the tool. Faster. On left here, we see what the old generation of satellites could scan in 5 minutes. On the right, that's what you get in 5 minutes, the whole planet, or at least one side of it. So it's faster. That means you can take more images over a given amount of time and make smoother movie loops out of that. Because animating movie loops really helps you highlight a feature that maybe you can't see as well in a single image.
Absolutely does, yep.
Let's zoom into a small piece of real estate like Texas.
Sure.
And we can see here a satellite that has a 1-minute movie loop visible light. You can see thunderstorms boiling there.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, the rippling of the top of the thunderstorm. This is a fun movie loop. We're going to be able to see things like this more and more often because of the new satellites being generated. Some things are only evident in animation. So that's faster. Well, what's better? We're able to now have sharper imagery than before. The Japanese have a satellite that uses the same imager that is on the new generation of satellites that America is launching too. An imager, that's just a word for camera. It's the camera on a weather satellite. We have something called the Advanced Baseline Imager.
Sounds important.
ABI. It's important enough it has an acronym. Everything's an acronym. Well, an ABI-like instrument is here over the Western Pacific, and we can see this color image. This is what a human eye might see if you were riding on the satellite. But it's a little bit fuzzy. With new technology, you can post-process the image taken by the satellite to highlight and sharpen some of the features. So this image here of the Western Pacific then becomes this image. Thanks to the
That's a big
processing
difference.
techniques, yes, this is the newest technology. So we've got a new satellite that can provide better data than ever before. And on the ground, we can process it better than before as well to really sharpen up the imagery and to give us a better view of the weather than ever before. So faster and better and more. What do we mean by more? Well, on the older generation of satellites, the imager, the camera, had 5 slices of the spectral pie, visible imagery, infrared imagery, something we can't see from the human eye. A lot of different slices of the pie. We're going from 5. The new imager has 16 slices. Each slice has its own relevance. Some are best for volcanic ash, for smoke, for dust, for telling the difference between smoke and dust, which can look similar under some infrared channels, but other ones bring out certain things. All of these 16 bands are important. In fact, some of the mad scientists, they didn't want 16, they wanted 24. There's always more you can do. But that'll be the next generation of satellites. So now we say, isn't it amazing what we can do these days? And you know what? It makes you think, well, what's the future going to be like too? It's so important to be able to know what's going on now in the weather. If you're going to forecast the future, you got to know where things are now. And satellites are the way to see that, especially in Alaska, where we don't have as many observations down on the ground. The satellites fill in the holes.
Yeah, really important stuff. And I love hearing about what we can see right now, but I love thinking about what is possible in the future. It's amazing stuff. And since you paid for it, it's a good time to learn about it. If you'd like, check out the website at www.goes-r.gov. And as I understand, it's a really easy website to use.
Oh yeah, a lot of good information about what these new satellites mean to Americans. And it's the Weather Service's mission to protect lives and property, and this is the tool how to do it.
Cool stuff, Eric. Thanks so much for sharing that with us today, and thank you for joining us right here in Alaska Weather Facts. We'll see you next time. And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis. Really looking much like yesterday, not much change actually over the last couple of days. It looks like although there appears to be some heavier ice in a little closer to Point Barrow than there has been the last couple of days. And actually for the next several days, next 5 or 6 days, continue a slow melting, but the main ice fields will be kind of shifting around with whichever way the wind blows. So moving on to coastal water forecasts, light winds for the Panhandle tomorrow, west-southwest at 10, 6 to 7 foot seas on the south coast, southwest 10 on the north coast. And for Stevens Passage, Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, northern inside waters, southerly winds at 15 knots with 3 foot seas, light northwest winds for Clarence Strait. And for Tuesday, northwest 15 for Clarence Strait and northwest 15 for the for all of the coastline there with 5 to 6 foot seas, a little lighter up to the extreme north coast toward Yakutat and eastern North Gulf Coast. Just looking at 10 knots and northwest 10 for Stevens Passage and for Lynn Canal, south 15. Prince William Sound, southwest winds 10 knots, North Gulf Coast, southwest winds 10 knots, and the Barren Islands, southwest winds 10 knots. West 15 for Kamishak Bay, Cook Inlet, south winds over southern Cook Inlet at 20 knots with 7 foot seas, and then southwest 20 north of the Forelands, seas at about 6 feet. For Tuesday, west winds at 10 for Prince William Sound, west-southwest winds at 10 knots with 3 foot seas for the North Gulf Coast. Barren Islands, west winds 15 knots, westerlies picking up a little bit, 20 knots for Kamishak Bay, 5 foot seas. Cook Inlet, southwest breezes at 10 to 15 knots with 2 to 4 foot seas. Kodiak Island, west-southwest winds at 15 knots, seas 5 feet from Sitkinak to Cape Sarachev. Southwest winds 10 knots, 3 to 4 foot seas. Bristol Bay, southerlies at 10 tomorrow, pretty light. And then also southwest 15 for the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. And then on Tuesday, look for west-southwest breeze at 10 knots for the Alaska Peninsula with seas 2 feet on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula there, Pacific side 5 feet. West winds 15 knots from Castle Cape right up the east side of Kodiak Island and Chillicothe Strait, southwesterlies at 15 with 4 foot seas. Fox Islands, westerlies 10 knots, pretty light, and seas 2 to 4 feet. For the central Aleutians, Adak and Atka, southeast winds at 10 knots, 3 to 7 foot seas, and then gradually increasing there toward Amchitka, southeast 15. Then from Kiska to Shemya, small craft advisories, east winds 25 knots, 7 foot seas. And then small craft advisories extend a little farther to the east to Amchitka Island, barely making that 25 knot range though, but hold about steady farther to the west at 25 out of the east. Adak and Atka, southerlies 10 to 15 knots. And for the Fox Islands, south to southeast breezes at 10 to 20 knots with 3 to 6 foot seas. For the southwest coast, start with the Kuskokwim Delta coastline there, northwest at 10, the Pribilof south winds at 10 knots, but small craft advisories, windier conditions, St. Matthew Island, Yukon Delta coast, St. Lawrence Island, and Norton Sound, all southwest 25 knots with 6 foot seas. And for Tuesday, that holds pretty much steady with 25 knot winds for Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, along the Yukon Delta coast, and St. Matthew Island, with seas 6 to 7 feet. And for the Kuskokwim Delta coast, bring it up to 20 knots from the southwest, south 15 for the Pribilofs. And for the entire Arctic coast, from Cape Thompson to demarcation points, small craft advisories are out for 25 knot winds. On the west side there, out of the northwest, central coast to portions eastward, westerlies, and then toward demarcation point turning south. And for the area from Wales to Cape Thompson, 30 knots sustained winds tomorrow with 8 foot seas. And moving ahead to Tuesday, those drop down and swing around to the north. Come down to 15 knots there, Wales to Cape Thompson, Cape Beaufort, west 15, western Arctic coast, west 20. Small craft advisories continue for the central coast through Tuesday with 25 knot winds out of the west, and that gradually falls back to 10 knots there toward Kaktovik and demarcation point. For tonight, again, could see gusts 45 miles an hour ahead of that front as it pushes in with moderate amounts of rain, anywhere from half an inch to 1.5 inches expected across the north slope, working from west to east tomorrow into Monday. Otherwise, a lot less as you head south to dry conditions, diminishing showers eastern interior, and gradually becoming sunnier and warmer for south central Alaska with a weakening front up to the north. Thank you for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.